This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Donny Fandango, Jeff Burton, Alex Ferrario, and former Blues defenseman Jamie Rivers.
It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast for Jamie Rivers, Jeff Burton, it's Donny Fandango, Jeremy Rutherford, Alex Ferrario joining me in the studio. Gentlemen, how are you? Happy Metallica No Repeat weekend in St. Louis weekend.
Well, it gives me something more to look forward to than the Blues and Devils and Blues and Canadians, because it hasn't been fun. So, hey, Metallica.
Here, let me tell you something that's not going to be fun. And I've already started worrying about this on Wednesday. And I'm not even lying to you when I say that I started worrying about this on Wednesday. I realized that not only was the Metallica show at the Dome, but also that the Blues were downtown.
Oh.
Okay? So I'm like, oh, cool. Where am I going to park? Friggin' goddamn Soulard? So thankfully, like, I found like you can buy, which is crazy to me now, that you can buy a parking space early down there.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, I reserved a place in the Keener lot, which is kind of halfway between Busch and the Dome, and, like, it's already paid for and all that sort of thing. Now, it's still going to be a complete and total nightmare once I get down there. I know this. But I am at that stage of my life. It's like the commercial with Dr. Rick, where I am already planning the exit before I even get into the event.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just how I'm doing. I'm trying to point my car to the exit so that this can just be as easy as possible.
I've only done 3 of these with Donny, but I'm starting to catch on to that.
Dude.
That's how it is.
Dude, it is. I have got so many crabby-ass old man tendencies. When I'm actually really, like, pushing 60, 70, I don't know how Mary's going to stand me. Yeah. I really don't.
I really think this is why I get along with Donny so well, because I have these. I park my car just like that. I back in parking garages because I'm like, well, I need to make sure I can get out of here easier than everybody else.
Dude, and also, too, my kids, my daughter especially, and I'm so bad at this. I don't know that I should admit this. Who gives a crap?
Come on.
So I very rarely anymore, unless it is a band that I absolutely love, stay until the very end. I am Captain #1 traffic beater. That is my #1 thing that I am concerned about, all right? So we were at the Bret Michaels show at the amphitheater with my son. It was just me and Dex, and it was 174 degrees outside.
Oh,
I mean,
God,
it was one of those,
concert.
dude, it was one of those gnarly days. So I say to Dexter, hey, man, we're going to stay for a few songs, and then we're going to go. And he's like, okay, no problem. So we stay for like 4 songs. And I'm like, hey, buddy, you enjoying yourself? And he's like, I don't want to go anywhere. And I was like, okay. All right, no problem. So we ended up staying to the very, very end of the show. Well, the next day, we're at home. We're talking about it. We talk about how we stayed at the end of the show. My daughter gets mad because the last show that I took her to, which I cannot remember what that is, I was insistent on us leaving a couple of songs early so that we could beat the traffic, and it turned into a whole, well, why are you staying for him and not staying for me? And
you love him more than me.
But that just kind of like how I like sort of go about things.
Donny, sometimes it's like one event that shapes who you are like that, and mine is my mom took my brother and I to the Cardinals game one year, and I can't remember the year, but we sat out in the bleachers in like 6th inning, 7th inning. She's like, all right, let's go. So we go, and on the drive home, we're listening to the game, and we hear Mike Shannon say, Brummer stealing home. He's headed home. He's safe.
No.
Brummer steals home, and forever. Now my brother and I will stay to the end because we don't want to miss that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My dad left the Monday Night Miracle before it ended.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
He said he and his cousin had to try and fight their way back into that stadium, and they couldn't get back in.
Oh, you just taught me. That was oh, my goodness.
That's the one that my dad always kind of reminds me of.
What are you doing, buddy?
But I mean, you talk about like 2 iconic St. Louis sports moments that we both had somebody bugging out early on. That's amazing. I don't even know where this started. Like, I used to be a lot of fun. Like, I would, like, stay at the game until the usher was like, hey, get out of here.
Hey, I think getting home early is fun. Are you kidding me? You get home before, you're expected to with all that traffic. You don't have to lay on your horn. You're doing everybody else a service, because if Donnie's stuck in traffic, Donnie's road rage comes out.
Nah. The road rage only comes out these days, normally on 55, when I'm trying to go home by Merrimack Bottom, and I'm getting doused by trucks that are going 120 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
That is the only, that's really the only the time.
JR
and Donnie, I feel you on the parking, too. I feel you on the parking because I think I've got, do you have any tickets?
No, they're not tickets anymore, so they're on, parking tickets. Oh, I thought you meant tickets for the parking lot. Oh, yeah, I've had like Probably, this is going to sound good, like 5 to 10.
Yeah, I think
mostly from parking at Enterprise Center to try and go into practice when you got to find a spot real quick.
Donnie, when we got time another day, I mean, downtown parking, if you see a parking spot and you park there, there might be a no parking sign about 2 miles away that applies to that spot. And so I've got 5 or 6 tickets. And I think, by the way, I think there's an amnesty going on right now. You can go down and pay it and not pay the fines. But I'm just waiting to come out. Okay, Blues, Winnipeg, at Enterprise Center, January 14th. Come out about 1 o'clock in the morning, done writing, and there's the boot.
There's the
on
boot.
My Ford 150.
As it's negative 15 outside.
I got JR after one practice. You remember this when I was walking out before him and I saw his truck and I'm like, all right, cool. So I had a little piece of paper and I just wrote, "Pay the ticket, you jerk," or "Where's your parking pass?" And I put it on his, and I stood over by my car and I watched him walk up and he's like, "You got to be kidding me!" And I'm like, oh, now he realized that it was a fake one.
And I didn't say kid.
It was something else. Wait, this is a podcast, right?
So, gentlemen,
Yeah.
we're about, 9, 10 games into the season?
8.
8?
Even better.
Oh, good. Well, listen, we've only had one game played since we chatted last, and that was the Wednesday game in Colorado. And I think it just became incredibly apparent to me and my naive eyes, honestly, kind of maybe where the Blues stand in this whole thing. Man, it just looked like a team that was in the top tier and a team that was clearly not. And even in, the beginning of the first period when the Blues were playing okay, and the second period when they played well, like I told you guys, it still felt like the Avs could kick their game up a notch, and it just seemed like the Blues were fighting for their lives to even just stick around in the second period of that game on Tuesday.
Yeah,
Wednesday,
we've talked about this, twice now? Like, speed kills this team. That's the one thing that I'm not sure they can combat, and I think that's what the identity was trying to be for this Blues team, where, hey, we've got some speed now. Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, and, you add in a Jakub Vrána and a Kapanen, and you're thinking, yeah, this team could compete with some fast teams. The problem is you might be able to outskate certain players, but as a 5-man unit, the other team just seems to be faster. They're faster onto pucks, they're winning puck battles, and they're faster on their decision-making. And I liked the way they played in the first 2 periods. Colorado was the better team, but St. Louis held on. And I think Curbs mentioned Mark Rycroft, who does pre and post for the Avalanche, said one team looked like they were holding out hope and the other team looked like they were trying to prove people wrong. And that would have been Colorado. But it's now we're back to the mistakes costing this team problems, to where you're in a hockey game, you're down by a goal, you get one back in the second period, a period that you typically play awful in Colorado. The long change, the elevation, it just kills this Blues team. You score the goal and you're down by 1. You don't score on the power play, you force a pass in the neutral zone, and next thing you know, they're skating and putting the goal in. That felt like they were playing with their food, which you've talked about, JR. You can't measure this team against Colorado this season. Colorado's on a different atmosphere than you are, but it is frustrating when you see the speed killing your team.
Yeah, okay, so with it already established, we've been doing it for a couple weeks, that Colorado's a great team, cream of the crop. You go in there, you're not expecting to win necessarily, but I had 2 takeaways from that game, guys. Number one is that, to me, what we're starting to see with the Blues, it feels a lot more is, it almost feels about halfway through the game, you're just trying to survive. You're not trying to compete, tie the game, take the lead, get the power, score the goal, and have a game that's tight and you're up by 1. And maybe you give it up late, but at least you were in it the whole time. So you give credit to Robert Thomas and that line for scoring that goal, because it did get them back into it. But prior to that, and even after that, I felt like the Blues are just trying to survive here. Number 2, and this ties into it, is if this team is going to be successful, we can sit here and talk about the power play, the goalie, the defense. We can sit here and break down every situation. But to me, if the veterans who've been playing for 10-plus years make mistakes like Torrey Krug did and Braden Shen, if there are veterans making those types of huge mistakes, then this team isn't going anywhere. The veterans, I realize we're going to put a lot of pressure on Thomas and Kyrou to lead this team and shoulder the load, but the Justin Fox, Torrey Krugs, Braden Shens, Pavel Buchnevich's, Brandon Saad's have to be the guys not making those mistakes. Making the plays, and so that wasn't the case in Colorado. You don't give yourself any chance to win when you have those 2 hiccups.
Guys, one thing, doing this podcast for a couple years with Jamie has made me a little bit hesitant to say what I'm about to say, but he's not here, so I'm going to do it anyway. But Man, I don't want to question the effort of these guys because I'm sure that they're trying. Okay, I'm not saying that they're not trying. But dudes, there to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is a visible lack of intensity on this team on a regular freaking basis.
First of all, I love his setups. He's got the best setups.
I know.
Where it takes about 10 seconds.
Like the
to
perfect.
preface
It's the perfect preface, and then he just drops the bomb on you. I love
there it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'll take it.
It's good,
but
Donny.
I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with you on some nights. I don't know that I would characterize the Colorado game like that just because they're such a great team.
Yeah.
And, but there have been periods this season and even games where you say, yeah, where's the effort? Sometimes I don't know that the effort translates on watching in TV or in person. So, sometimes I feel like you talk to Craig Berube, no, the effort was there, and he'll give you an honest answer.
Yeah.
Even though to the eye, it didn't look like the effort was there. But I think if you look a little deeper into that, what that goes to is a body language that we're just trying to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they might be trying really hard and the effort's there, but there's still some sort of body language like, oh my God, I can't get the puck out of this zone.
Right.
Like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and the difference for me is last year I felt like it was spot on to where you could see like there was just a lack of intensity. One bad thing would go wrong, and then it was just kind of like you felt like they were just floating through the game. At least this season, there's been situations where I felt like that Arizona Coyotes game by the third period, you kind of felt like they were just floating through that game. The third period against Winnipeg, I felt like that, and then that Colorado game, the third period. So like instances I feel like that's there rather than last season. It felt like it was an entire game where they would start off and they'd be floating through the game. And like JR mentioned, it's so hard to question the effort out there.
Right.
But the decision making is the part that you question so much because these are guys that have been in the league for a long time, like that pass from Torrey Krug. Like you look at that and you say, what were you looking at there? And he might have had he did have a better vision than I did on television, but you see Cale Makar waiting for that. So it's just, it feels like this team, when one thing goes wrong, you can't stop the snowball, which again was like last year. That game against Colorado, you were flying through in the second period. You were thinking, man, if we score on this power play, we're in. You don't score on the power play. 30 seconds after that power play ends, you get the puck picked off in the neutral zone, and Colorado swarms you. And then what happens after that? 3 minutes later, they score another goal. Yeah. Like, it does feel like in the losses this season and the bad losses, things snowball on top of the Blues.
Yeah, it's funny. You talk about what did Torrey Krug see? We can't necessarily see it. I was at my son's game the other day, 10-year-old hockey, and he just put one right to the other team. The other team takes it and scores a goal against us and drive home. I'm like, what'd you see there, buddy? And he goes, oh, that guy was blocked. I couldn't see him. There was a guy standing in front of him, and I was like, are you trying to tell me that you had a better view than me in the bleachers drinking beer? There's no way. There is no way.
That's amazing.
But that's true. And then that's why I don't like what you say. I'm glad that you say that about the effort, man, because I do think that it's incredibly easy for my dumb ass to say, well, I'm sitting on my couch in South County when there's a lack of intensity, whether it's there or not.
And you're not the only one saying it too.
No, well, I want to ask you guys, and I know, JR, you did an interview with Jakub Vrána for The Athletic, but I want to read this quote. Now, this was from the practice, I believe, somewhere early this week, practice, Coach Berube being interviewed, and this is what he had to say about Vrána. This is a direct quote. I wrote this thing, exactly wrote it down because I want to get, we're talking about Vrána. This is Coach Berube. Want him hungrier for pucks, and when you're confronted battling harder for him and competing harder, we know he can score, and he has a great shot, but there's a lot of other parts of the game that are really important. There's a lot of other parts of the game that are really important. Dudes, I was trying to put that in context for Tommy the Boss saying, but that to me is the coach literally saying, dude, you're not doing your job. You're not working hard enough. Yeah. This is not good enough. There's no part of this. Guys, this is not going to have a good ending here with this guy and this team.
No, I mean, basically what he's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, because you were there, you heard these. Yeah. I just heard it on tape. He's essentially saying he's just waiting for somebody to get him the puck so he can score. And he said this about Vrána in preseason, where it's like, look, there's a lot of other ways to score than just from the perimeter. You got to go in. I remember one of the preseason goals, he scored a rebound goal right in front of the net below the faceoff dots. And Berube was like, that's what we want from him. But the games that we've seen from Vrána, it's been a lot of floating on the perimeter, waiting for the pass, or it's been waiting in the neutral zone for the play to come back north. I mean, for lack of a better word, it seems like it's cherry picking. And that's not going to fly with Craig Berube. Like, some coaches are going to be fine with that, but not Craig Berube. I mean, you've been healthy scratched twice, and I'm very curious to see what happens with this one tonight, because they benched him for a couple of shifts in the third period against Colorado. And if you're healthy scratching him again after only playing one game, yeah, I mean, we got to be talking about, like, is he going to be a part of this team for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I don't know if I can say anything about this, because it seems like every time I say anything about Vrána, I get the you're a hater.
Oh yeah, well, welcome to my world.
Yeah,
welcome to our text line during BK and Ferrario. Oh, well, you think Alexandrov's a better option than Vrána? You don't know hockey, Ferrario.
Yeah, sorry, you can't even point out a turnover to you here. But, like that goal the other night, I realized that Ross goal, when he scores, he beats Tucker. Hey, look, Tucker, whatever you want to talk about, the angle, Tucker can't skate as well as some guys, like a Perinovich.
Paul Bissonnette.
Yeah, there were some mistakes made on that play, but I felt like in the offensive zone probably could have been a little more pressure applied by Vrána. He's there at the wall. So anyway, I think that with Vrána, he's not a Craig Berube type of player, so he needs to do those other things, and Craig Berube is not going to let it fly. He's not going to let it continue without him making his point that I need you to be better in other areas. So, Donny, you've probably seen some of the clips of Vrána where, he made the no-look behind-the-back pass and it gets picked off and it heads back the other way. That's the kind of stuff that you can't have. Yeah. You're talking about a team that's trying to get into the offensive zone. Every game we talk about how they don't have any offense, scoring chances. Well, it's because there's turnovers made by a lot of guys on the team. He's one of them, and so they need to change that. And here, I think Riv made this point the other day. Hey, Vrana's got a nice shot. Well, guess what? You don't get to use it unless you get the puck into the offensive zone and set up. So,
or if you get the puck to your teammates to start offense.
Yeah, great shot, nice shot. Let's see it. But how about we get the puck in the zone, whether it be he or other guys first?
You know what? He feels like Mike Hoffman. And I mean, like, we've lived this experience, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, Mike Hoffman had an incredible shot, and everybody was like, man, why is Mike Hoffman, he's not playing well? And, oh, man, why is Mike Hoffman on the second power play unit? Well, because those fancy passes that you're trying to make, they result in turnovers. And that's not, I mean, look, again, people immediately hear this and say, well, that's why you need to get a different coach, because a different coach can coach these guys. Any coach in the National Hockey League right now is going to see a backhanded no-look pass that gets picked off and turns into a breakaway and says, okay, well, you're not going to be. I mean, John Tortorella sat Patrick Laine in a game with the Columbus Blue Jackets because of stuff like that. So you got an incredible shot. The problem is if you've got no sustained offensive zone time, and he's playing with two guys that Berube deems good puck possession players. But if that line is still creating offensive turnovers and you're playing more on your own end, how does it benefit this team to be on the ice?
I overly simplify things quite a bit when it comes to the Blues, I think, to make up for my lack of, like, in-game knowledge and things. But I really don't think I'm wrong here with what I'm about to say. I don't understand why this team does not take more shots from the gosh dang point, or more shots from the point with more bodies in front of the freaking net. There is never anybody in front of the net. And when they do that with Booch the other night, when he's deflecting the goalie, or distracting the goalie, they friggin' score. Yep. Yeah. It is maddening to me, because you see the other team get those dirty goals that the Blues just do not seem to get. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. There's got to be a willingness. The first, 5 or 6 games of the season, I don't even think they established enough offensive zone pressure where they could get into a situation where they were taking shots and getting the greasy goals in front of the net. But now you're starting to see them get in there a little bit, pass the puck back to the D. Sometimes they are getting looks. Krug and Falk and some of these guys are getting looks on the point shots. But when they do take them, you're right. I sometimes see 2 guys off to the side, maybe 6 or 8 feet. And I'm not saying you got to stand dead center every single time, but have some net front presence. That's the only way this team's going to win. Look, it could be a different year, different team, more skill, and they could score some fancy goals. A couple years ago, real good rush team. But that's not how this team's going to score. And I think to this point, I don't see a ton of guys saying, look, it's going to be me. I'm going to be that guy.
Let me ask you guys this, because when you think of the best power forwards around the National Hockey League, who comes to mind? Like those guys that are dominant in front of the net around the NHL.
Matthew Tkachuk does a lot of that.
Yeah, he does do a lot of that.
That was going to be my
Brady's
guy.
one of them. I mean, Tom Wilson made a career of it. Gabriel Landeskog, I know he's hurt right now. But think of those guys. Think of the power forwards, and then think of who the Blues have. I don't know if they have power forwards. Like, they've got big bodies, don't get me wrong. Kevin Hayes is one of them. But Kevin Hayes has never really been a traditional stand in front of the net and look for those like Keith Tkachuk deflections. Yeah. I mean, like David Perron was that guy for the Blues where he would look for the snipes, but then he would go to the net and he would get those rebounds because he knew that that was where they were. Oscar Sundqvist is one of those guys, but Sonny's a fourth-line guy that's not seen a whole lot of ice time.
Right.
Like when I look at this Blues team, and I understand the frustration, Donnie, because I'm the same way. It's like, man, you got all these offensive defensemen. Why aren't you putting more pucks to the net? But then I see the pucks that actually get to the net from the blue line, and the goalie's got a clear path to it. And I mean, like, this is a power play problem, too. Joey was talking about it on the broadcast. The shots that you're taking on the power play, the goaltender is already set, signed, sealed, and delivered waiting for the shot because he knows where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Whereas you move side to side, you've got those one-time threats, you've got bodies in front that screen the goaltender. Well, we're talking about a guy who can't see it. Colorado's, what was it? It was the third goal, Lehkonen goal. Like, he's not a power forward, but he scored that goal standing in front of the net from the pass from Nathan McKinnon. So, like, I look at the Blues and I say, I don't know if they have those power forwards on their team. They're more of a off-the-rush, score goals like that type of team. So we're trying to make this team something that they're not, which I think is part of the problem this year.
But here's what I've always said, and there's different types of players. I get it. And GMs build different types of rosters. But if you have a rush team and that's your bread and butter and you're not that guy who parks in front of the net, okay, play to your bread and butter. Let's see the skill. Let's see the goal. But if you can't do that, then you're going to have to do something. You have to do whatever's going to get the job done.
And I think we're seeing that right now, where they're trying to showcase their skill, but it's not enough to outskill the other team. Mm-hmm. Like, they come into the zone and try and create that skill, and the other team picks it off and it's going the other way.
Yeah, it's like what I used to say about the Chicago Blackhawks. Everybody talked about how they didn't have a fighter, when they won those cups and everything. Yeah, that's because they're beating you 3-0. They don't need a fighter because they're using their skill. And
right.
So if you don't execute with your skill players, hey, you might think you're a great skill player in this league and you can put up big numbers and, what does Hitch say?
Yeah.
Diddle dang with the puck or whatever he used to say.
Yeah, dipsy doodle or whatever it is.
Yeah, but if you can't do that. So anyway, like you're saying, Alex, yeah, maybe there aren't those types of guys on the roster, but hey, do you want to play in this league? You want to be on this team? Yeah. Be that guy.
So I do want to ask one thing before I ask a couple of NHL things, including this Ottawa situation, which holy Toledo. Holy Toledo. But so I was watching the game on Wednesday night on TNT or whatever it was, and I, saw and heard between the first and second period the biz nasty, complete dismantling of the Blues defense in that particular period. Do you guys think that was warranted? That felt, and listen, I am critical of this team. I do not try to put them on a pedestal, but that felt a little overboard to me, but maybe that's just because I'm a Blues fan.
I personally felt like it was spot on for the personality that Bissonnette is.
Okay.
Like if you've listened to Paul Bissonnette on TNT, like, he is over the top and he does the chirping of the other teams and they kind of have some fun with it. Now, I felt like there was a lot more individual attack on Tyler Tucker with that play because, like, he was talking defense, but they kept showing the same highlight. And then you get Wayne Gretzky who just throws in, like, well, maybe the goaltender should have stopped that one. I'm like, whoa. But, I mean, like, what Paul Bissonnette said, he's not the only one that thinks that. Like, I know here in St. Louis, we do feel like the defense has improved. Like, I personally think Colton Parayko's been one of the best players all season for this team. He's been consistent. But, like, Craig Button said the exact same thing to me and BK on our show. He said, do you think anybody's afraid to play against this defense? Like, I'm using the quote from Craig Button. He said, nobody's afraid to play against this defense. They're not going to hurt you. They're not big enough to stop the plays. They're not fast enough to kill the momentum. People aren't afraid of the Blues. That's what Craig Button told us. And I think when you get a play like that, and it wasn't just him saying it. He was using the information that Rick Tocchet, the head coach that was his teammate on TNT broadcast, was telling him. Like, that was all about positioning. And he was essentially saying, like, Tyler Tucker didn't have the position on him. So I personally, I thought it was funny just because that's kind of like the TNT shtick is to get that kind of stuff. But the way that they isolated with Tyler Tucker, it kept playing the same highlight. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe Tyler Tucker's family isn't going to appreciate this one. Yikes.
What do you think?
A little overboard, but I think it's biz for one, and two, you're on TV. It's entertainment, so you got to make your point, and even if it means blow it up, right? But I think that it's a situation where, Tyler Tucker's a 7th-round draft pick who's not necessarily known for his skating, and Nick Leddy, his veteran defensive partner, is pinched up a little bit, which is fine. It happens, but now it falls on Tucker, who's, a right-side defenseman on that pairing, and now he's all the way up against the left wall trying to make the play against a very fast...
And he is a left-handed defenseman, too.
Yeah, and I get that he's left. Yeah, he's a left-shot guy, but, he's across the rink, and he's trying to make the play, and, could he have taken a better angle? Yeah, but, to Biz's point, he was talking about kind of the Blues defense in general, and he said that, look at all the turnovers. I could have gone out there and broken up more plays than that. Yeah, it's true. I thought in that game there were some forwards coming out of the zone, too, that turned over the puck. I remember Brandon Saad one. So it wasn't just the defenseman, but, Biz is just being animated.
Yeah.
But, gosh, he says it, and the way he said it definitely got some attention.
Oh, it stung.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that thing hurt, man. Like, it was like he was talking to me.
You wouldn't believe how many people texted me after he said that, because I'm on the radio at the time, so I don't know what's happening, and then I watch it afterwards, and I was the same way. I'm like, oh, imagine if you were like Tyler Tucker's family watching this, like, oh, gosh, come on now.
Tucker's family, Bennington's family, Fandango family.
Oh, yeah, everybody's feeling it. Seriously, though, like
my family doesn't care. They just wish I wasn't watching sports.
When Wayne Gretzky chirped in on that one, he was like, well, maybe the goaltender should have stopped it. I'm like, even when the great one says it, it hurts. Yikes.
Okay, so, gentlemen, you're going to have to completely fill me in on everything that is going on. Normally, whatever happens with the Ottawa Senators, good luck 91, Vladdy, good luck, Brady, good luck. But, I don't know, I'm not a Senator guy, so I don't care. But from what I understand, I'm going to try to button this up as best I can. New ownership in Ottawa literally just took over the team, okay? There were 2 situations, one involving the recent suspension of Pinto, the gentleman, and the gambling situation, and then also something from the 2020 trade deadline about someone not notifying somebody of a team on their no trade clause list. So all of these things and all of these penalties are just now happening, and the owner of the Ottawa Senators, the new owner, didn't really know very much of anything in this process.
Yeah, so in a nutshell...
yes.
In a nutshell, Ottawa makes a trade with Vegas, but
this is 2020, right?
Yeah, this is a couple years ago. And so when they do the trade call, they go through all the details. Hey, does this guy have a no-trade clause, any protection that we need to know about? No, he doesn't. So the trade goes through, and he goes to Vegas. Well, then Vegas tries to trade Dadonov to Anaheim. Well, he had a no-trade protection that prevented him from going to Anaheim, but that was never brought up when he was traded to Vegas. So now he's on Vegas. They're trying to trade him to Anaheim. He says, no, I can't go there. That's one of my places that I don't go to. And he said, what do you mean you got a no-trade clause? We didn't know about this when we got you from Ottawa. So it's negligence on Ottawa's part. So this falls back on them in that instance. And so what the owner was upset about is this is a guy who just bought the team, right? Well, that was 2 years ago. Nobody brought it up. They told him it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And then now he's going to pay the repercussion of losing a first-round draft pick. So he's upset about that. And then he came out also and said that nobody told him that the Pinto guy was being investigated for betting. So he feels like everybody in the league kept that quiet so that he'd pay top dollar for the team when he bought it. And then now all of a sudden, sale goes through. He's the owner of the team. And now they're saying, oh, yeah, this, and this.
Yeah.
Dudes.
Yeah.
So Pinto's like the perfect name for the kid. If he bought a Pinto and he got a lemon here.
But dudes, can you imagine spending
I'd be
that much money?
$950 million.
Yeah,
and
I'd be
then,
pissed.
And then having them, that's no big deal. It's not going to be a thing. Just a little speed bump, and then you're losing a first rounder, which I know that he pointed out as a big freaking deal. And of course, that's a big freaking deal. This is not right.
No.
So let me ask this: could he take legal action against the NHL?
Well, I mean, you
I
can
don't
do
know.
anything.
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
only thing
say.
is like, I mean, he just got into owning the team, and it's
So
it's
you would
like,
you would run the risk of pissing off other owners if you did that.
right
Probably
out of the gate, you're pissing off everybody.
I also feel like the legal side of it, like they did tell you, like you knew that you were purchasing a team that had these things attached. Maybe not the Shane Pinto thing, but you knew you had the trade issue because like this was discussed back in 2020. So the legal side would be like, well, you knew this was going to be the case when you bought the team. You just didn't know how big of an ordeal it was going to be.
Right, but it did take a long time for them to come to
2 years is a joke.
2 years is a long time. But Donnie, I think that he said what he wanted to say. He said his piece, right? It was really strong. And typically the league will come out and slap him with a fine. I think this time they just let him say it.
Yeah.
It was like, no fine, no fine, no fine.
Yeah. No, welcome to the NHL.
You know what? We're going to go ahead and look the other
Yeah.
way this particular time.
Can I be honest though? Like a first round pick for both of those things seems really extreme.
Yeah.
Like it seems extreme that's what the first round pick penalty is going to be. Like the lack of giving the no trade list, understandable. Like that's something that either should be fined or maybe you take away a late draft pick from. But the Shane Pinto thing also, like on top of it, that seems like it's a penalty already in itself with the suspension to the player, maybe a fine to the team since he was a part of your roster. But to take away a first round draft pick, like that's like the worst of the worst situations. And this wouldn't even fall into that category for me.
So wait, so they're getting dinged first rounders for both?
No, just one, if I'm understanding correctly.
But I mean, that's still a freaking lot. That's not right.
No.
That's some
So I
that's
would
some
be
crooked
pissed.
business, Gary Bettman. That's some dirty pool, mister.
No.
That is, man, I mean, like I was watching this yesterday and it was kind of like the realization of what was happening as I was watching this. And I stopped in the studio and was like, well, that's a bunch of BS. like it was just so unbelievably crazy to me that would be allowed. But then I guess you're right. Legally speaking, you did kind of know. Maybe you just didn't know the extent of it.
I was just jealous. I wish I were the reporter covering that press conference because he was going off the rails. Yeah.
It was intense. Like I heard clips of it afterwards, and I'm like, man, this guy was pissed.
And they've got a really good thing brewing up there right now, don't they?
God, yeah.
I mean, they've got a really because getting that previous owner out was a huge thing for the team and the city, right? And then now, so they got a new owner. They've got a real good nuts and bolts in that team. So there's reasons for Ottawa to be excited.
I personally like the owner. I like everything that took place. Did you see the report of kind of what happened between he and Pierre Dorian of why they fired him?
Yeah.
So the conversation essentially with the owner to Dorian was like, this is unacceptable that you didn't provide a no trade list. We're going to part ways. And Dorian was like, yeah, I get it. Okay. Like he knew, he was like, yeah, that kind of pretty crappy on my part. So yeah, I get it. I'm walking away.
Dude, it's always the worst, man, when you would love to fight back at the ball. Come on,
I'm a great guy.
You're right. I screwed up.
My bad.
You know what? You know what? If I were you, I'd probably do the same. You know?
I do it all the time at home.
You're my wife all the time.
You're right.
Hey, yeah.
All right. So this is a busy weekend for the boys.
Yeah.
It's the Devils tonight. Who's tomorrow night?
Montreal.
Jake Allen.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss you, Jake.
Would he be? Because they don't have a back-to-back, right?
No,
He just played.
They played last night, so I doubt he plays. They got 3 goalies right now, Montreal, so I don't know that he'll play tomorrow night. But he played game number 400 last night.
It's pretty
in his
awesome.
NHL career. Pretty awesome, yeah.
Are you kidding
So
me?
was he
Jake
second
Allen?
round draft pick? So maybe not a. The fact that he has just continued to, make himself.
Well, and think about who he was around coming up into the leagues. Like he and Ben Bishop were head-to-head. Then you were with Brian Elliott, and then you were with Carter Hutton. Binnington comes in, and then he goes to Montreal where you're with Carey Price, and then you're the guy for a little bit. I mean, like you talk about a career for a goaltender, and like that's not an easy thing to do to play 400 games unless you're the best of the best. And man, Jake Allen's made a career for himself and has a Stanley Cup behind his name, which is pretty awesome.
I don't know him. I've never met him, but I would just assume that he is one of those guys that you just can't say very many poor things about. He seems like one hell of a teammate from everything that I've ever heard.
He's great, Donnie. And I think, I think when he went through his struggles and then Jordan Binnington kind of took things over, I think there was a time where Jake Allen might have been talking to, somebody off to the side who just emphasized positive attitude, hard work. And Jake Allen, I kind of saw it behind the scenes where he just took it and ran with it, and he became that teammate. And you don't necessarily just roll with everything, but I think that accept that, hey, I can help the team this way. I can be this guy. I want to be there for my teammates. You guys all recall the story where, I think in the Stanley Cup Final Series, he's trying to mimic Tuukka Rask, the Boston goalie, so that the shooters can see what Rask looks like. Donnie, I've told this story before, but I'll tell it quickly here. I got down to the Blues parade, Stanley Cup parade, and I saw, and I knew how many people were going to be there, but I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to write a story about a parade when I'm 37 people deep in the streets of St. Louis? And so I said to Blues PR, I said, is there any way I can get closer? I'm not looking, to be put on a pedestal here, but just any way that I could get closer. And he said, yeah, just talk to the players, see if you could jump on one of their floats or, whatever, just kind of off to the side. I said, okay. So I went up to Jake Allen. I said, Jake, I hate to ask you this, but I'm just trying to get closer. Is there any way? He had this huge fire truck, right? Well, in the back of the fire truck, there was this little compartment where you could kind of just be out of the way and just kind of hide. And he said, yeah, sure, just jump right back in there, no problem. And so anyway, that's where I went. You're inconspicuous. You're not really like part of the parade, but you're embedded and you're able to watch things, see things. And I'll never forget it again, told this, but Jake Allen has his daughters and his wife and I think his mother-in-law on this fire truck. And at one point he gets called out into the streets by the fans. Come on, Jake, get out here. And Jake hands me his daughter. And I'm holding his daughter.
Oh my God.
And he runs over to the fencing where the people are, and I'll never forget this. This guy hands Jake a beer. He's got a beer. They like lock arms like they just got married, and they both just chug this beer for 30 seconds, each of their beer. Meanwhile, I got my notepad and his little daughter, Lennon, and he just walks back to the fire truck, steps up onto the fire truck. I hand him his daughter. He climbs into the back, and
doesn't say anything. Just goes at it.
That is just an absolute boss.
JR, beat writer, reporter, and
babysitter.
I mean, that's full circle, man. Dude, that's something else.
Didn't you fall off that fire truck?
Well, Alex,
I'm not going to let you forget about
Donnie,
that.
We're out of time on this week.
No, actually, I think we got plenty of time. As a matter of fact,
30 minutes.
It's honestly not really a story. It's just that the day of the parade, if you guys remember, was it rainy? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be muggy? What do you do? Do I do shorts, pants? So I went with the pants, and as you can imagine, my pants are a little, skin tight, Under Armour pants, I like to call them. And so anyway, I got off the fire truck to go interview some fans, right? And it's like, oh shoot, the fire truck took off. Well, now it's like 30 feet down the road, and that's my ticket, right? Like that's where I'm watching the parade from. So, I start chugging down Market Street to chase the fire truck, and the 5th grade Jeremy thinks he can just leap right onto the back of that fire truck, and I did. And as soon as I get up there, just the whole crotch of my pants just split and ripped. And so for the next couple hours, you're kind of like
covering that one up.
You got one hand down there.
Cross-legging it. That's all right. Curb stole my microphone during the parade. He and Joey and John Kelly and Panger were on a float, and I was at KMOX at the time, so we were trying to grab everybody as they came by, and you had the basic way that the engineers told us was like you have from this stoplight to this stoplight, and then you lose signal. And I'm like, all right, cool. So you hop on it at the first stoplight, try and get done before the next one so you can run back. So I hop up on the spot or the first stoplight with Curbs, and Curbs takes the microphone from me, as Chris Kerber would do. Like he's going to get everybody on the float, but he never gives it back. He forgets that I need it back. And so he took it. I'm telling you, he was 3 stoplights down. And so I'm holding on to this float like, Curbs! Curbs!
And I'm sure that he can completely hear you under that
hear me?
entire
He's
mess.
enjoying his own beers. It's like, oh, what a nightmare.
I think the thing about it is, though, is that winning didn't scratch the itch the way that I thought that it would. I mean, it scratched an itch. We won.
Just for them?
Yeah. But now I want it again.
Like I just another itch.
It is, man, because like that ability, man. And this is gonna sound dumb, but like as a fan, like the ability to talk trash to any other NHL fan. The year the Blues won the Cup, the beginning part of that season, I was at ACL in Austin, Texas for their music festival, the Austin City Limits Music Festival. An amazing, amazing time. I'm watching the band Radiohead. I'm starting to walk back to catch a ride, and there is a guy in a Bruins hat, and I've got a Blues hat on.
Oh, Donny.
He's wearing a Bruins hat, and he goes,
Alex.
St. Louis effing sucks. And when the Blues won the Stanley Cup,
You went and found his home address?
I just thought back to the miserable day that douchebag was having. And it made me so unbelievably happy on the inside. It still does, as a matter of fact, as you can tell.
It does. I see his face right now.
And I want more.
Yeah.
I want more. And that's the worst thing that they did.
Yep.
Because we saw it. We saw how hard it was to happen. But then that team was so goddamn great that you just had this feeling like there's something special here. And I obviously don't necessarily have that about this particular team, but I really want that again.
I just love it because
that's a rant.
Bad.
90% of the people are thinking about their grandpa that died who would have loved to have seen that moment.
Donnie's
or
thinking
Barclay Plager or somebody
and Donnie's
like that.
thinking of the guy in Boston.
Donnie is thinking about Pete in Boston.
Dude, you like apples? How about them apples? Because like dudes, but guys, you have to understand. I'm literally walking through a festival out of the fest. I am not trying to start fights with the guy with the Bruins hat on. I'm just trying to go because I'm hungry and I want to go somewhere to get tacos. Okay? That was it. And this guy did that and I was like, man, oh man.
I thought Donnie was going to say he goes back to the Austin City Limits Music Festival every year looking for that same guy. Hey, remember 2019? You know why it stings though, why it doesn't itch the way it should? Because the following year, you had a cup contending team and COVID shut it down.
Yeah.
Like that, nothing you could do about COVID is what it is. But like that following year, that team, and I think it was Ryan O'Reilly that I talked to that said it, that team had all the makings of another cup run.
Donnie, you need to do what my brother did. I think when the Rams were here, and I think they beat Philadelphia in a big playoff game. I can't remember what year. And he got the Philadelphia area code, whatever it is, and just dialed it, and then randomly dialed 7 other numbers. And whoever answered, he just rubbed it in. Hey, we just beat your Eagles. Made about 5 phone calls.
Or purchase a billboard next time that your team wins it in that city, and just put it up there that whenever they beat Boston again, Donnie, we purchase a billboard that says, "Hey, guy from the Austin City Limits Music Festival.
Right.
Boston sucks."
Dudes, I'm right now. I want the Bills to beat the Dolphins, and I want to call Miami zip codes. That's the first thing that popped into my mind. I'm trying to be a better fan.
No.
Like a more plugged in fan, but like I cannot, like, taking all of the emotion out of it would be terrible for me, man. Like I have rooted hard since I started loving sports, and like because I know that like sometimes we get on the fans when they get so upset about things, and I get that, but I feel like there is a way to kind of balance out the pissed offness, I guess, a little bit, because we do have so much information in 2023 that we didn't maybe have back in the day. I just feel like you can be a bit more informed, but at the same time, man, like, I get it. You see him go get housed and you get pissed off about it. I mean, I don't.
Welcome to being a fan. Yeah. You love the highs and you hate the lows.
Yeah, man. Too many lows.
Oh, yeah.
And I got the Bills and the Bengals staring at me on Sunday night.
That's even more lows.
I'm already nervous about that whole friggin' situation. The goddamn Bills entire, like, I think we have 6 starters that are out for the next couple of weeks. We've got 3 starters that are out for the rest of the year.
Good.
Like, what are you saying good for, Ferrario?
No, it was a sarcastic good. Like, good.
Oh, okay.
See,
that did not sound like a that sounded like it was pointed.
That was the angry fan that he's talking about. We got to find the happy middle, Donnie.
I just want to turn Donnie's nervousness into a drinking game. Every time he says that he's nervous about like the Bills or whatever, I'm just everybody drink.
We can.
You know how you get rid of the nerves? Play some sports bets.
Oh, dude, that's the last.
That is the last person.
That is the last thing that I need to do, man. I can't. First of all, and I'm not even like a cheap person, but like I just cannot. I've told you guys, I just have a tough time wrapping my head around the idea of just, oh hey, I might not get this money back. That's just nothing in which that I can sort of handle. And then it would take so much fun out of it for me, because I get upset when like not upset, but like I get bummed out when my fantasy football team doesn't win.
Same.
And that's not even money, really. You know what I mean? 50 at the beginning of the season or whatever the hell we
paid it 3 months ago, and
who
cares?
Right. But like I would absolutely lose my mind. I'm going to go through all my notes here and make sure I mention everything. Oh, how's the AHL team doing real quick? while we're talking about Thunderbirds?
I don't know what their overall record is, but I mean, the people that fans care about the most are Bolduc and Dean, and I think Bolduc's got a goal and assist so far through the season. Dean's got an assist, but they're playing third-line minutes. I think they're around a 500 team. Vadim Zarenko's looked good, but I don't think it's anything that's been like overwhelmingly great. Dvorsky's been awesome in the OHL. Snuggerud's been awesome for Minnesota. Those are the other two that have kind of been tearing it up.
All right, well, literally, that's all the notes.
There it is.
That's it. And you know what? I'm out of notes. That's all I got.
No more notes, no more podcasts.
All right, gentlemen. Well, you're going to have a great blues weekend. I'm going to have a great Metallica weekend, and we will reconvene next week, and we'll do this all over again.
Amen.
Awesome.
All right, for Jamie Rivers, Jeff Burton, Alex Ferrario, Jeremy Rutherford, and Donny Fandango, thank you for listening. As always, let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com.